Let's give everyone a few seconds to join us.
Test. 1, 2.
Amy can't have it all. I know. Any trick next spring? I know. No.
I will have to drag the whole thing. Yeah.
Stephanie's got a good background.
We are ready, Commissioner.
Okay, let's get going. So good morning, everyone. For those that celebrate, Eid Mubarak and Nowruz Mubarak for all. If you don't, thank you. If you don't celebrate, that's fine too. I'd like to note for the record that Commissioner Graves is joining us remotely today through the Just Cause exemption for illness. Commissioner Graves, are there any individuals in the room with you over the age of 18? If so, please name them for the record.
No. And good morning, everyone. Just joining you virtually just as a precaution and to spare you of the live soundtrack of my coughing and sneezing.
No, I appreciate you not sharing the love, honestly, in person. So thank you. And thank you for making the effort to be here regardless. We do not have quorum yet. Should we still do roll call?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, let's do roll call. And then when we do have quorum, we'll establish it verbally.
Commissioner Sheik.
Here. Oh, we do. Yeah. It's like I manifested. Perfect timing. Yes, here.
Okay. Commissioner Graves.
Here.
Commissioner Bass. Commissioner Gruhl.
Here.
Commissioner McMorrin.
Here.
Commissioner Perkins.
Here.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Here.
Commissioner Saunders. Commissioner Stringer.
Here.
Commissioner Slausa. We have quorum.
Thank you. Okay, so at this point, we have quorum. This is wonderful. We're going to go. Saba, will you lead us in the land and labor acknowledgement?
Sabawine Chang, Deputy Chief Community Opportunity Officer, and yes, Eid Mubarak, thank you. Land acknowledgement. The Los Angeles Continuum of Care and LASA acknowledge our presence and work on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Gabrielino, Tangva, Kizh peoples, the Fernandano, Tatavian peoples, and the Chumash peoples. LASA acknowledges the native peoples of this land as the land caretakers of our region. We acknowledge that homelessness did not exist before colonialization of this land, genocide, and governmental policies of erasure and land and wealth dispossession. We express our deep gratitude for the ancestors, elders, and protectors, past, present, and emerging, who steward this land. Labor acknowledgement, honoring Carlotta Bass, educator, newspaper publisher, editor, and civil rights activist. We recognize Carlotta Spears Bass, the pioneering Black woman activist and editor-publisher of the California Eagle newspaper. The Eagle was one of the first and longest-running Black publications in our region. Bass was also the first Black woman to be a candidate for Vice President of the United States. We honor her journalistic and community organizing work to demand fair access to safe and affordable housing in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Bob, I really like how these are different now for each meeting, and it feels intentional and like brings us like present actually in it rather than, not that it should be a checkbox, but I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. And thank you to Gita.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, for item 3.0, if there are no corrections to the minutes, we will accept as presented. If there are corrections, please let me know at this time. And may the record show that Mayor Bass is here as well. Any corrections to the minutes? Nope. Okay, seeing none, let's move along then. Let's go to item 4.0, Interim Chief Executive Officer Report. Geeta.
Hi, all of you. Thank you. So at last month's commission meeting, I shared our future vision for LASA and how we're transforming as an organization to refine our purpose and our role in this new funding landscape. As part of our process for the next phase of this restructuring, we have begun posting executive jobs so that are open to all at LASA, and we'll be interviewing for those roles quickly to get a new leadership structure as soon as we can. During this phase, we will only post leadership roles internally, and all current LASA employees will be able to apply. We are making sure to approach this restructuring with transparency and care for our staff and keep our union brothers also and sisters also apprised of all of our restructuring. We are doing everything we can now to ensure that LASA is able to carry out its core functions going forward. Although LASA will need to right-size its staff based on funding next fiscal year, we are committed to being as efficient as possible to support the system. That is why some of these jobs posting will reflect changes in function and in scope. As I've shared with our staff, change can be extremely challenging, but it also gives us the chance to build a new LASA that is stronger and more sustainable. I want to thank everyone at LASA for their continued commitment to our mission and in this extremely challenging transition. Next, I'd like to share an update on our service provider invoices. I know that is top of mind for almost everyone. We're doing everything we can to pay the service providers quickly with the funds we have that are available. Our staff is working every night till about midnight in the finance department trying to get this done. Throughout the past few months, we have provided regular updates to our funders and service providers. We also meet regularly with the county. Now it was once a week. Now it's many times a week with our deputy CFO and others. And throughout the past few months, we're able to get those updates to the service providers and funders. We're now working closely with the city and county each week to align on what funding is owed to LASA, and we send weekly updates to the providers on their status of their own outstanding invoices. This has also been a regular topic of discussion at our monthly service provider convenings with the county and the city, and we'll continue to share the most up-to-date information with all of those partners. As I'm sure you've all heard from them as well, they're very concerned, and we take that really seriously, and we're working as fast as we can to get that resolved. Lastly, today we have submitted our request for approval to contract with KPMG through the end of the fiscal year to help us assess LASA's finance operations and provide recommendations to improve our processes, timeliness, and accountability. We know that this is not the first time LASA has been in this position, and we hope to bring this firm to help us lay out a roadmap to address the issues that have caused payment delays we're experiencing. Finally, I'm reporting that LASA is on track to meet the filing requirements of our single audit. We have submitted financial and organizational documentation to the auditors. We were able to accomplish this despite a key mid-leadership transition that required us to adjust the document gathering timeline for our auditors. As this year's audit nears completion, LASA remains committed to being a responsible steward of our public funds, and we expect the audit to be completed on time. I also just want to thank William and Jose for their excellent work at our new sound system. It's knocking on vinyl, working well. And we also want to thank Commissioner Rodriguez, who gave us a lot of input and saved us a lot of money and time. So we're very happy. And we're happy to take questions.
And this may be in part of your other conversation, but I know there's been a lot of discussion on the payment plan, payment on that. Can you give us a little, I mean, you said you're working on it. Can you give us a little bit more of timeline a bit? Or I know, again, there was something I heard in one of the county meetings that they weren't aware of what the status was. So I'm curious, how that communication is occurring and whether accurate or not, on that piece
Yes.
of it. So if you could just give a little bit more flavor on that.
Yes, absolutely. And Shuri is here as well in the audience. We talk probably 2 or 3 times a week. I did address that comment that was made at the county because we are working really closely together. And we don't want it to be that there's no information or they don't know what we're doing. We are in contact with them regularly. Janine also, Lim is here, talks to them quite frequently. We are really trying to work together with them, and Shuri has actually been an excellent partner with that in trying to figure this out. We do put out, millions and millions of dollars, but we really are trying to get as much as we can out the door and still be fiscally responsible.
So again, maybe Janine can do this.
Yeah.
Is that where is the
Do you want
the timeline of kind of where we are on that?
As I said in my finance committee report earlier today, we have dispersed about 60 million in disbursements since the last time we met at finance committee. We released the February and March advances. As to date, we expect to be on time to release the advances before April on the county side. We are, again, working very closely with the county on particularly payables coming from FY 24-25 and the resolution for that. We have released much of the advances that we possibly can, all the payments we possibly can for the
Janine.
cash we have on hand.
Sorry, Janine. I think for these new mics, we don't have to speak as closely to them.
Oh, sorry.
I know we're used to that. So thank you.
Do you have any more specific questions?
So the 24-25 you're dealing with, the advances have occurred.
Yes.
So in the 25-26, those
Mhm.
are mostly advances. Are we able to start, kind of reconciling that for the 25-26?
Yes, and we have done that. As we rolled out the February advances and the March advances, the recoupment of those advances occurs when we issue those advances.
Okay. Obviously, we're all still, so I think that, and again, I wasn't at the finance committee today, but
Sure.
as we make sure maybe whatever documentation that goes to that can come also to the full commission and obviously with the county as well. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Oh, it's in our appendix right here.
Any
Yeah.
other?
No.
I also want to thank Amir, our director, who's also here as well. I missed him. Sorry, I didn't see you. For his great work with our SAM.
Thank you.
Any other?
No questions for now, but we have how many online speakers?
1, Commissioner.
Okay, let's do that.
Testing. Online speaker.
I think I jinxed our sound system. Sorry.
1, 2, 3.
We spoke too soon, right?
Yeah.
On caller ending in 3713, you're welcome to speak.
Hi, this is Ruthless. The audio sounds a lot better. I was complaining about that for a long time, so I wanted to recognize that the audio is much improved. Thank you so much.
Actually, thank you for confirming that. Really appreciate that. Okay, let's move on. I don't need to be that close at all. To consent calendar, we'll start. So item 5.2 will be removed for separate consideration. Does anyone request anything else to be removed separately? If not, can I get a motion to approve items 5.1, 5.3, and 5.4? Commissioner Bass moved.
Second.
Okay.
Commissioner Sheik,
Aye.
Commissioner Graves,
Aye.
Commissioner Bass. Commissioner Gruhl,
Aye.
Commissioner McMorrin,
Aye.
Commissioner Perkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Aye.
Commissioner Stringer.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Now we'll hear item 5.2, which has been changed since approval in committee. Alejandro will provide more information.
Good morning, commissioners, members of the public, and our LAHSA colleague. So this 5.2, we have added one item, which is item number 4, as noted in the updated memo and table in the packet. So this item is for an agreement to enter with KPMG, which is a consulting firm that would be conducting a forensic review of accounting, cash management, billing, and subrecipient payments of our finance department to identify root causes of delays, quantify impacts, and also propose recommendations. And the contract proposed amount is a little over 200,000. Are there any questions? And we would add one important note. So the purpose of this is to piggyback on the city's contracting and procurement process. This is going to save administrative time and also expedite, because these services are critical and time sensitive.
And
And
the
this is-
city's contract was procured competitively. So we are meeting that.
I was actually going to ask about that. Could you just explain the process a little bit? And
Sure.
I assume you issued an RFP and there were some various folks that showed up. Why you chose KPMG?
Right, we were in, because we really need this financial advice quite quickly, we were able to find a existing government contract that was competitively procured, and LAHSA's procurement rules allow us to piggyback on existing contracts like that. So we did find a contract with the city controller's office. The city controller gave us permission. And so we were able to use the same scope of work and the same length of the contract to then get a bid from KPMG.
Got it. Thanks. They're great, by the way, in my experience.
Yes, and if
Yeah.
we were to continue on in a longer relationship, or we would do an RFP to be transparent.
Right.
This is just an emergency need.
Yep. Yep, that makes sense. Thank you.
Any questions on this? Okay, if not, do we have a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Commissioner Sheik,
Aye.
Commissioner Graves,
Aye.
Commissioner Bass, Commissioner Gruhl,
Aye.
Commissioner McMorrin,
Aye.
Commissioner Perkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Aye.
Commissioner Stringer.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So next we're on to item 6.0, update on the County Department of Homeless Services and Housing. Cherie Todoroff's here. Oh. Thank you for being here, Cherie.
Absolutely. Good morning. I'm Cherie Todoroff with the Department of Homeless Services and Housing. I will provide a brief update today. So we are continuing on our transition work with LAHSA. You've heard it mentioned a few times here today, but we are meeting no less than daily and in many cases multiple times a day with different teams at LAHSA on both the programmatic and on the administration side. Standing meetings with Janine and her team every week, and with Gita, as well as ad hoc meetings as needed to support that transition, and also to really work together on issues related to the funding and the timeliness of payments and the advance coordination. We have engaged the service providers who may be transitioning from agreements currently held by LAHSA with county dollars, who are not yet partners who we have contracts with at the county or through HSH. And so we have engaged them to provide that additional support and coordination to prepare them to get on our master agreement list and to prepare them to be able to have work orders with us to maintain that continuity of services. Many of the service providers we already have agreements with. And so the adjustment for them for resources that may be transitioning from LAHSA to the county will be fairly seamless using a contract model that they're familiar with, that will just be adding the additional service components to. We have done a lot of work. We've talked about the need to get out allocation letters to service providers so that they are familiar with what their funding will be as we go into 26, 27. We are anticipating that the allocation letters from HSH to those providers will be going out today. So that will give providers information on what to expect for their funding so they can plan for their budgets for fiscal year 26, 27, and also for their staffing needs. I want to just elevate a couple of things that we know are really important bodies of work that we have started to talk about and that we will be having some very sort of detailed work plans on as we close out this fiscal year with LAHSA. It is a different type of closeout this fiscal year, clearly. We will go through the regular closeout activities that happen. We will work on our coordination related to late claiming. Everybody is probably way too familiar with the delays for providers getting paid for late claims from last fiscal year. So we will work to coordinate the messaging to providers, how important it is to submit your claims by the timelines that are in the contracts and by the deadlines in order to be in the round of providers that get paid those claims in a timely way. If the claims continue to come in delayed, there will be delays in payment. Obviously, we will fulfill our obligations as it relates to that payment. So we will coordinate with LAHSA on how we do that in a funding agreement. But we don't want to be in that situation. We want all of the providers to get paid on time and not have these delays. So that'll be a significant body of work that we'll be doing together.
A quick question, sorry
yeah.
about that, because you call them claims, so I'm used to.
Oh, I'm sorry, invoices.
Invoice, okay,
Okay.
so I just want to make, that nomenclature on that. And then the invoices, are you saying that they're delayed in being submitted? Because again, that's again, providers, sometimes not their fault, but they are delayed or that there's challenges in getting it in. So are these ones that are delayed based on invoices that they're submitting or delayed because of something else?
Delayed invoicing from providers to LAHSA. LAHSA claims us multiple times a month, so they package those invoices and get them to us for payment on a very steady schedule. So it's the timing of providers submitting those invoices to LAHSA.
Sheree, what's the deadline? Is it July 15th? Like, let's close out.
I believe the contracting time period says July 15th. It would be 15 days after the close of the month, I believe is what LAHSA contracts say. We have a little bit of space there, but not much. And there's fiscal closeouts that we're obligated to do. Certainly on government side, county side, we have these hard deadlines that you got to close out, a fiscal year by this date, and there's not a whole lot of flexibility with that.
Are you envisioning that, so for the late closeouts that
Yeah.
will come, that HSH will just coordinate with LAHSA, or will staff stay at LAHSA that would have potentially maybe come to the new department, but they'll stay here to help oversee that?
These will be fairly straightforward invoice processing. So it would be probably mostly a workload associated with LAHSA's, I don't know what you call them on your side, your finance team or your invoice processing team. And so we would, again, seek to minimize that. What we do is LAHSA also seeks to estimate the amount of outstanding claims. That then allows us to prepare to have the funds on hand sooner rather than later to pay those claims. We're actually going to be talking and seeing if we can identify some additional options to be able. I realize I'm talking too close to that mic, aren't I? I'm used to that as well. Like you have to yell into it. We want to be able to close this out as efficiently as possible. We want to be able to pay service providers as efficiently as possible. We want to see if there's other ways that we can do that that will allow us to do it even more efficiently than we've done it in prior years. We will be, there is the annual Measure A advance that happens. It comes quarterly to LAHSA, monthly to providers. We've talked about that before. That gets closed out on an annual basis, so that will be part of our closeout this year. We also have the Measure H advance, which has been a longstanding advance that we anticipate partially closing that out as well. However, per the report earlier today, I believe about 28 million of that is still the provider recoupment agreements. So those recoupment agreements currently extend through 2027. So we will, those will continue to be honored, and we will be coordinating with LAHSA on how we manage those recoupment agreements for those remaining H funds on a go forward basis. And then we also, as another notable body of work that has fiscal implications as well, that is important to both LAHSA and to us, would be the master leasing program. So we're closely coordinating on that and how that continues to get funded as we go forward.
Yes, Derek. But it's flashing. I thought with Measure A that took the place of Measure H. There's still Measure H funding to close out?
There was, starting a number of fiscal years ago, I'm going to estimate around 2017, the county provided sometimes it gets referred to as a working capital advance. So a Measure H working capital advance. It came in a couple of increments over a couple of fiscal years and ultimately totaled around $82 million. That was used for cash flow, for working capital, for service providers, and some annual advances that LAHSA had done with that as well. LAHSA has repaid 25 million of that, so it's gone down to like 57 million, and about 28 million of that is with service providers.
I just have a question. Just looking ahead, what are the big kind of challenges you see? What sorts of things do you think are things that we should be aware of in terms of problems that may come forward? I mean, we've gone over payment related issues. I guess one of the things I'm just wondering about is potential for disruption in services in the transition, and how you are thinking about that and how you plan to make sure it doesn't happen.
Yeah, thank you. That is part of the really close coordination that we're doing right now, because we are seeking to minimize any disruption in services. It is very helpful that the department has contracts in place with most of the providers already who provide services, and the contract types that we have are the same contract types that are currently being held under LAHSA. Sort of, for example, with a service provider, we may be contracting with them right now to run a number of interim housing sites, and then they may also be using county dollars at LAHSA to contract with that same service provider for sites. So we'll just be able to add those sites and those dollars to those contracts, and essentially like no disruption. There are some new providers who we have not worked with before, and those are the ones that we are sort of hand-holding right now to help them through that transition. And there's one of the most notable transitions will be the time-limited subsidy program. So that is one that teams from the department and LAHSA are also really working together on very closely, along with the city as well. So that is definitely like a three-party coordinating team to work through that transition. Basically, what's happening there are different multiple funding streams in those time-limited subsidy contracts, and we need to unbraid those funding streams. And there are people being served by that right now. So we also need to assign clients to the new contracts that will result as that. So there's significant work happening right now. Another thing that we're doing to minimize that disruption is that we are setting up our timeline so that all contracts can be fully executed on or by June 30th, essentially. This is going to be another real big messaging point for us with our service providers and partners is they will have a number of weeks to get the contracts executed on their side, but we will need them to execute those in a timely way. And so we will not be able to do retroactive contracts or funding. Those contracts need to be executed by June 30th. We have our timeline set up to do that, and we will do a lot of messaging and prompting with service providers to get their executed agreements back to us by that date.
So is it fair to say that you don't anticipate any disruption in services? And to the extent that there are challenges, some of that's in your control, some of it's not? Is that?
I don't want to overstate. I think we can anticipate that there will be this will be a change. And with the change, there will be some bumps. So I don't want to overstate that. We're just trying to anticipate what all of those could be and how we can mitigate. And we can appreciate any input as well for anything that any of you may be thinking of.
Great. Just getting ahead of anticipated challenges is, I think, is from our perspective here, or mine anyway, I'll speak for myself, is most important. So we can provide that support and help, ahead of time, as opposed to when it's a potential crisis. Yeah. Thanks.
And I think, sorry,
Oh,
go ahead.
No, not at all.
Because they have contracts with you before, that's been easier. And I think they're kind of used to the county contracts. So hopefully that will ease their way in which the providers can sign in and do that. And one of my questions, which you may be getting to, sorry, we interrupt you when you haven't finished your presentation, is just, but because I just by chance happened to listen on Tuesday to the board, there was a conversation about vacancies and filling some of those. So how is that all related based on kind of all of that occurring? I think they said they're trying to quickly, in addition to the LAHSA potential applying for some of those positions and how that will work.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, we do have vacancies within the department. We are going through a number of different phases of recruitment. We will continue to see job postings. While we're talking about this, I'll just also mention that our job postings are done with language that indicates quite clearly that we are seeking to have former LAHSA employees be considered for position. That's built into our job bulletins. And it's just beyond the department. We're also seeking to create employment opportunities for LAHSA employees who will be impacted by this transition in all of our county departments. We are doing the recruitment to fill those vacancies. But in addition to that, we have agreements in place with several county departments. That includes the Auditor Controller, Internal Services Department, and Department of Human Resources to do what we called shared services. So what that means is they are providing those HR supports for us right now. They are providing IT support for us right now. They're providing other types of financial supports for us right now. And so those agreements are in place to support us until we get fully staffed up.
Yeah, back to contracts. It's great to hear that there's going to be a clear timeline, and there's going to be messaging, etc. But will there be any other tangible supports? For example, office hours, the designated staff to walk folks through, even though they already have county contracts, there may involve some new processes. So just wondering what tangibly you will be offering for providers.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. There are office hours. There are specific one-on-one engagements with service providers who may be new to the county, but there's also, as it relates to the current providers that we have contracts with, we are regularly in communication with them, including either weekly or biweekly meetings with each service provider for each different service line to walk through what is upcoming, what's going on with their contracts, what are issues they're facing, how can we problem solve. So there's a high level of engagement there, and it's going to be ramping up for the next few months as we continue through this transition.
Commissioner Graves has a question.
Hi there. I just have a quick question about, do we know the number of service providers that will be moving over?
That, I apologize. I do not have that exact number. It would, there may be somebody here who knows, can say with more specificity. Apologies that I can't. We can share that with you. I would say there's a large number of service providers currently under contract with LASA that will have resources that are currently administered by LASA that will be coming to HSH. And that will be contracted through HSH. So it is a significant percentage of current LASA contractors. LASA will continue to hold contracts with most of those as well with other funding streams.
Okay, great. And I just want to let everyone know the mics are great. Didn't want to be sick to hear it, but the mics are great. So you can hear
This is the
everything
kind of feedback
perfectly.
I need today. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll take something positive. We have how many online speakers waiting?
We have 2 online speakers.
Okay, are there any more questions from commissioners for now before we go to those? Okay, wonderful. Okay, thank you, Sheree.
Caller ending in 3713, you're welcome to speak.
Hi, this is Ruthless. I happen to know an amazing high-level social worker who is not a citizen. Have you considered putting up job postings with visa sponsorship? Thank you.
Christina Carrillo, you're welcome to speak.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Again, I second everybody else's comments about the new mics. I really do appreciate them and you. I have a question. Sherry, you mentioned that contracts will be fully executed by June 30th. If we currently hold contracts with LASA that are the tenant-based rental assistance COC contracts, would those be affected? And if so, those contracts, our contracts renew January 1st. Is that date going to change?
We actually might address that. I know I'm not supposed to answer questions, but we might address that later on in our presentation about the COC. Just noting that. Listen in for more.
Thank you.
Okay. No more speakers. So right now, let's go. We're going to go on to item 7.0. So at this time, and I mentioned this lightly at the last meeting, I'd like to create an ad hoc transition committee and nominate the following members this time. So it would be myself, Commissioner Graves, Commissioner Rodriguez, and Commissioner Stringer. The committee is going to focus on simply supporting senior leadership throughout this transition in a more agile and nimble way, strictly advisory. And so I would like to make that motion. Can I have a second? Any discussion, any questions on this?
How will y'all report out?
It's a very good question. We can report out at regular commission meetings. Yeah, so I'll add it to the list of committee reports. Appreciate that question, actually. Didn't think about that. Anything else? I just feel like it's really important this time to have some nimble and agile way to just support our staff as they're making decisions, honestly, and just be more present for them. So I really appreciate it. Denise, can you call roll on this, please?
Commissioner Sheik?
Aye.
Commissioner Graves?
Aye.
Commissioner Bass? Commissioner Gruhl?
Aye.
Commissioner McMorrin?
Aye.
Commissioner Perkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Aye.
Commissioner Stringer?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
That's right. Okay, thank you. So at this point, I actually am going to skip ahead to 11.0 and bring us into closed session, and then we'll reconvene afterwards, go back to item 8. So closed section, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to paragraph 2 of subdivision D of Government Code section 54956.9, 3 cases. So can we please have everyone leave the room? That does not need to be.
Yes, we're ready.
Okay. The commission met in closed session under Government Code 54956.9D2 to discuss 3 matters involving significant exposure litigation. There was no reportable action taken as to 2 of the matters. The third matter involves a resolution of a disputed invoice for AT&T services. The commission approved a proposed resolution of the disputed AT&T invoice. The vote was unanimous. Disclosure of the resolution will occur once the agreement is fully executed, and disclosure will no longer jeopardize the settlement. Thank you. All right. No other changes right now. So right now we are going to move to item 8 and then continue on the agenda along the same order it is in, just to give folks a heads up. Yeah.
Test.
Okay.
Okay. Still figuring out. Okay. Is this picking me up? Okay. Josh Cassell, Continuum of Care Board Chair, presenting today with, let's introduce yourself.
Paula Lance, I'm Vice Chair.
Hi, good afternoon or good morning. Jessica Reed, Associate Director, COC Planning with LASA. All right, we're gonna dive into our presentation and report for you on behalf of the COC Board. Next slide, please, Denise, thank you. Today's report is gonna cover 3 main items. One, a recap of the board's work from last year, 2025, an update on current work and our priorities, and then we're gonna end with next steps.
Before jumping into our talking points, just for piggyback the compliments for this new audio system. We had our first COC board meeting with the new system earlier this month. Rave reviews. Shout out to Jose Luis and the rest of the IT team at LASA and Amir. All right, so I'll jump into it. First, I'm going to give a quick recap of what the COC board has worked on over the year 2025. So the first big body of work is really around the COC program competition. And I know that I've come to the group along with Jessica over the course of the year as we've navigated through a lot of the policy changes that have been coming rapid fire from the current federal administration, and planning around how we would respond for around COC renewal funding and ensuring that LA holds on to as much of that funding as possible. We partner with staff to prepare for multiple scenarios. Fortunately, to date, there has not been a competition of the sort that we saw posted initially in 2025. And we plan for both the 2025 NOFO scenario as well as the renewal that it looks like will be forthcoming based upon the 2024-25 application. So a lot of planning, but not a lot of actual work in terms of submitting applications for COC funding. The other big area of work is around HMIS. So the HMIS committee met throughout the year. We meet on around a quarterly basis. And both the committee and the board approved updated policies and procedures that
Josh, can I just pause you for a moment?
Yeah.
I just want to note that Commissioner Mayor Bass has exited, but we maintain quorum. Thank you. Sorry, Josh.
Thank you. So I know that we brought the HMIS access policy to multiple things, including ECRA, this body, and I believe the Programs and Contracts Committee. That was approved and codified and updated HMIS policies and procedures. We also approved the data quality monitoring plan that was presented by LASA staff. And just this month, we're presented an update on the progress that has followed on from that more active management of HMIS data quality. All of this work is happening in coordination with the other 3 COCs that are on the shared HMIS platform that we use across LA County. And we've continued to work towards a governance framework that really brings in the subject matter experts from across city, county, and our sister COCs to manage HMIS policies and procedures going forward.
Well, this year, the board's priorities largely continue the work from last year. We'll continue to partner with LASA to develop policies that ensure the LACOC able to submit a competitive application for the upcoming NOFO. And we'll continue to clarify and strengthen the HMIS governance board as we incorporate the new members. And we will also be supporting real-time policies as well as all of this evolves.
One other item of note is just really around COC oversight and the role that the board plays with the support of LASA staff. I think many of us remember years ago when COC underspending was a very ever-present topic. We receive quarterly spending reports. We have partners from the Housing Authority on the table who are really the entities that administer the lion's share of COC program funds and are regularly looking at that spend down data, budget versus actual, and digging into the details with those partners to find out what barriers might exist to maximizing utilization of COC program funds and to the vouchers that are associated with those funds. We also annually, as part of the competition, can conduct a performance evaluation of every grant within the COC portfolio and bring back that data from the performance evaluation for review amongst the COC board to use it to prioritize grants within the application itself. But then that's also very useful information for just understanding the performance of the Continuum of Care program grants overall. I'll hand it off to Jess.
Thank you. So now we're going to talk about, next slide, Denise, thanks, the NOFO and the current status of funding. Before I talk about 2026, I do want to give an update that we weren't able to present at PNC committee about the status of 2025 funding. So right now, if this were a normal sort of cycle, we would have heard our awards in 2025 or in January for 2025 funding. So we would have assurances of which projects were being awarded, which ones are not. As of yet, we do not have any assurances. We've not heard any updates from HUD. The only assurances we have are from the Federal Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2026, which requires HUD to renew projects that are expiring in Q1 of this year. So expiring in January to March. That's about 5 projects. The other thing we know is that there's an ongoing lawsuit against HUD for their 2025 NOFO. In a recent filing, HUD basically said that they will not be able to competitively award Q2 expiring projects. That's 18 projects. And so that they are going to have to non-competitively renew those. So in all, we have some assurances from some statements that 23 projects will be renewed, but that leaves the balance of 108 or so still in limbo. In terms of the lawsuit, earlier this month, HUD's appeal to the current lawsuit to basically have the preliminary injunction thrown out so that they can move forward and run essentially a half-year NOFO using 25 language. That was rejected by the court. HUD submitted a formal appeal to the appellate court, and we expect to hear a decision on that by the end of March. We still don't have a timeline for when we'll hear a decision on the actual lawsuit and the merits of that lawsuit and the lawfulness a lot of the changes that HUD was making in that 2025 NOFO. So a lot still remains uncertain. So in terms of all of this is really important context for 2026, because by now we would know roughly how much funding we have to renew going into 2026. Right now, we're just left on our own to make some educated guesses. This week, HUD did just send a notice out that they intend to post a registration notice, which will spell out the requirements that COCs have to meet in order to register. They haven't, this is a notice that will supersede a notice from 4 years. So we are eager to see what's in that notice. In past years, they would also put policy priorities in that notice. So it remains to see what sort of additional hoops we may have to jump through in order to register as a COC. So the other information that we know is that HUD must release a NOFO for 2026 1st. That is congressionally mandated. They have to make awards by December 1st. So all of this actually is pushing the timing of the NOFO release up, which means that compresses our ability to plan and be ready for that. The other mandate from Congress is that Tier 1 can be no lower than 60%. For comparison, tiers, this has been a very durable program that has prioritized 90% at least of renewal funding. So we have 30% more funding at risk. And then we also know that the funding that Congress allocated for 2026 is not going to be enough to cover all of the renewals. So we don't know that's going to play out in the competition. There was some set aside funding for special populations, domestic violence, and youth programming. What we don't know is just how much time HUD's going to give us to respond to a NOFO. In the November NOFO version, they gave us 60 days, so that's what we're planning around, opposed to the 90 days that we're typically used to. And we also don't know the lawfulness of the conditions that we saw in the NOFO, anti-DEI, immigration status verification requirements, caps on permanent housing. All of that is really to be determined in the outcome of the lawsuit. So our ability to plan for those things, we're going to have to build in some contingencies on whether or not they're lawful, whether or not they're not lawful, and how we'll proceed as a COC. Just for some other context in the federal landscape right now, HHS, Departments of Health and Human Services, Departments of Justice, the Veteran Affairs have all recently signaled some major shifts that are going to impact and probably end up harming a lot of the population that we serve. HHS is moving forward to ban harm reduction and enforce abstinence-only programming. The DOJ is expanding its ability to process civil commitments. And the VA and DOJ are looking to build capacity to have basically force legal guardianship of veterans and involuntary treatment. So this is sort of the context and the policy direction that's happening at the federal level, and we expect likely to show up as well in the HUD space. Next slide, please. In terms of timeline, as I mentioned, we have a very compressed window to plan. So basically now through the end of May is when we are planning, and we expect that the COC board and the commission are going to be asked to make decisions as early as April to start positioning us to be able to respond to a NOFO starting in June. And I believe that concludes this update, this portion. I think Josh is going to close this out, and then we're happy to take questions.
So as you can see, the COC board is ready for likely a flurry of special meetings to navigate whatever we end up seeing come through in terms of 2026 COC program renewals over the next few months. And we'll definitely be working with LAHSA staff to bring recommendations back to this body, as that is our advisory role as it relates to the COC program application. One more note before closing out. This will be my last update as COC board chair. So we're rotating out leadership of the COC board. As was last update as co-chair. So going forward, the new COC board chair that was selected at the most recent meeting is SPA 6 Representative Ben Kay, and Grace Weltman, SPA 8 Representative as co-chair. So yeah. But thank you. We appreciate the partnership. I know there are a lot of governance tables, and we appreciate the commission inviting us for these quarterly updates so that we can continue to collaborate closely, especially in these times.
Thank you. And Josh and Paula, thank you for your service, especially at this time.
Agreed. I have questions.
Please.
So on HMIS, well, I think there's two things. One, and this is probably more for Jess, when you look at COC and policies of the COC, they apply to the COC, $220 million, correct?
HMIS policies?
No, COC policies.
Oh, COC policy. Yes, correct. The COC policies, especially the ones that are attached to the NOFO, those apply to COC projects.
Right, but the authority granted you as the COC lead is granted over $220 million, essentially.
Essentially, I think it also would encompass any match funding that's put into that. So COC funds require 25% match.
Okay.
Those sources can come from other places. Also, the regulations also stipulate that COCs are responsible for ESG funding as well,
True.
and policies around ESG.
How is that? What's the ESG allocation now?
ESG, emergency solutions grants are much smaller. It's a formula grant program. There are 3 tranches of ESG. I don't know the exact amounts, but they're very small. One comes through the state that goes through to the COC by way of LACDA. The other 2, one is a direct allocation to the city of LA, and one is a direct allocation to the county of LA. And I believe they both pass them through LASA.
Yeah. And then on the HMIS questions, I'm curious, and I don't know if this might be a question for Bevan or Janine, how much does the administration of HMIS cost every year?
Good afternoon, Bevan Kuhn, Deputy Chief Analytics Officer. HMIS administration includes various things. It's actually the software for the service. It's the staff time to build out workflows and maintain. It's the staff to respond to our 25,000 tickets we get a year to support our users.
Nice.
It's the training to onboard, make sure people know how to use the database. And it's the reporting and analytics team who also supports that. So currently, and various software. So that whole package is about $12 million right now. And that all includes some like RMS work and other databases in there. But in general, it's about $12 million to support our data infrastructure that supports our participants and case managers.
And so I know that the county allocated 7, give or take, give a little, for starting July. So that's a $5 million gap. Do you anticipate that the city will make that investment?
Yes, so we have COC and ESG funding and also funding from HealthNet and other LA Care facilities that are helping us integrate some of those. So we have about $4 million in additional funding that's specifically for HMIS. If you remove the administrative fee that comes with that is about $6 million. And so that leaves about $2.5 million left for the city. And we are hoping that the city will contribute that.
So you're asking the city to contribute 2.5 million to HMIS.
Yeah, and all of the infrastructure around there. Yes, correct.
Okay, I had one other question. I also just want to state for the record that the COC is, will you explain, Jess, what are the responsibilities of a COC? And what are those that just have to be designated? Like what have to be owned by the COC lead and what have to be designated by the COC?
Pop quiz. Okay.
I know a few, but I want to hear you
It's
say.
okay. It's okay. I have some of this. So the COC, regulatory wise, the COC has to establish
the COC leads role, not the
right.
Okay.
But the COC lead is designated, can be designated as the collaborative applicant. The COC also has to designate an HMIS lead. So there are different lead roles. But the lead agency or collaborative applicant is the one responsible for when there are multiple projects being submitted to HUD, then a unified funding agency, you're then a collaborative applicant. So we're responsible for submitting funding to HUD. We also have the responsibility of, within our charter, every COC can designate the responsibilities of the COC differently.
Even the collaborative applicant, for some reason, I thought that was tied specifically to the lead, that wasn't to be designated out.
I think that's interchangeable. Yeah, COC lead, collaborative applicant, I think that's where you get your lead designation status. Then there are other responsibilities that LASA holds, but that is the COC's decision to make around governance, updating the charter, designating an HMIS lead. That's actually tasked to the COC board. A lot of COCs are structured differently where their boards actually are delegated. A lot of the decision-making power and delegation ability to delegate lead status on a number of different responsibilities.
So the COC board designates the HMIS lead, not a vote of the majority.
No, so right now, but that's what we've been working on really closely with Bevan's team and with HUD technical assistance at ICF, is to find a way to enhance our governance for HMIS that creates an equal playing field for LA, Glendale, Pasadena, and Long Beach, because they're all sharing the same instance. And so having a governance table or governance model or framework that they are able to move forward on decisions that impact all 4 COCs. Right now that responsibility for the LA COC is delegated to the COC board per the charter.
Interesting. Hey, oh, shoot, I have one more question that it was for the leads. Oh, I'm sorry. Just a little bit confused on so if they have to put out a new NOFO by June 1st, does that mean they would then just have to go with, like, there's the assumption that the previous awards are all just going to be honored and then we're doing new?
So what is said in their court filing is they want to run a half-year NOFO. They want to run they want to apply their November or December version of their NOFO to projects that expire in quarters 3 and 4 of this year. So that's the lion's share. That's 108 projects, but they want a different funding allocation to happen for Q1 and Q2. That's congressionally mandated. So the outcome of the court case and their ability to meet certain deadlines, they have to actually make awards by July 1 for Qs 3 and 4. Otherwise, they're forced to non-competitively renew. This puts us in a really awkward situation because right now, as I said, we would have had an award notice in January. We would know roughly how much funding we have to ask for renewal going into 2026. We have no idea because we don't know the status of our 2025 awards yet.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All the moving parts. Okay. Next, we have item 9, report from CES Policy Council.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Camila Farnham. I'm the acting director of systems and planning, and part of my role is to support the CES Policy Council. You won't be hearing much from me today. I'm going to pass it off to cabinet members Haley Fusilier and Jonathan Sanabria.
Hi, as Kim said, my name is Haley Fusilier. I'm with PATH. Right now, I'm happy to be our CES Policy Council chair, and I'm here with colleague Jonathan. Next slide. So the first 2 slides are just going to be an overview of what we do. We presented this last time. Again, the Policy Council is to document standard policies and procedures for our coordinated entry system to achieve alignment, which are access, assessment, prioritization, and referral, which we refer to as matching. And we're making sure we seek to ensure that individuals experiencing homelessness are served consistently throughout the system, regardless of their characteristics or geography. Next slide. And this is like a life cycle of our policy and guidance. So as you can see with the policy, we're looking at formal principles based on our shared values, going over to the guidance, looking at standards of delivery and making sure that the expectations are clear, going down to procedure. We're looking at how they're carried out, each step, how it moves forward, and who's responsible for those steps. And then again, lastly, with implementation, we're looking at how it looks on the ground, and most importantly, reviewing the data impact of all of it. Next slide. So these have been our priorities, and this will continue to be a lot of our priorities, is to evaluate the effectiveness and equitability of the work streams that operationalize the PSH prioritization and matching guidance. And we are starting with batch matching. It seemed that we dig in there. It's a lot of data. And after our first meeting, when we discussed it, it was even more data because we had to dig down into a lot of different categories. The LASA team has been imperative to give us real time and accurate. And as we pivot with the topics that we need with the batch matching. And the second priority is our Los Angeles housing assessment tool. We are starting to assess the initial outcomes of the first round of the implementation. And now we're looking to see how we're going to have to adjust that implementation plan accordingly. Slide.
Good afternoon. Mentioned before, my name is Jonathan Sanabria. I serve as the secretary on the Policy Council. So I'll go over first the PSH prioritization and matching guidance, what we did in 25, what we hope to accomplish in 26. So this function is really about who within the system gets prioritized for a resource when available. 2025 was about strengthening the consistency and reducing the friction that exists throughout that process. There was alignment with LAHD's disability verification in order to streamline the process and avoid delays that can occur as somebody's making their way into permanent housing. Three changes that occurred during the year were also balancing the vulnerabilities with real-world readiness. So this included talking about proximity, document readiness, and length of time. And the goal was to make sure that matches resulted in placement. That was the most important thing, that as we sent somebody over to a resource, that they were not denied or they were turned away. One final note on the 2025 was the prioritization of the TLS participants through 2026. Now, this was done so that it protects investments and minimizes the return to homelessness for folks that are housed. For 2026, we will evaluate how well our workflows are functioning, starting with batch matching. Like was mentioned earlier, we really want to make sure that the outcomes to our goal is that they're efficient and equitable. We want to make sure that batch matching is meeting the two criteria that we set forth. We are also reassessing how programs function within the changing landscape. We want to make sure that policy aligns with the reality. We want to make sure that we're not adding barriers to the actual programs and the way they function day to day. Moving towards a standardized case conferencing model to improve consistency and transparency. Case conferencing has existed in different formulas in different parts of the county. We want to make sure that it is consistent, that everyone understands what should be present when we talk about case conferencing. And overall, it's about making sure that the structure we have built works for the way we intend it to actually function. Next slide. For the LA Hat. So in 2025, it really was about standing it up, getting it out there to as many people as possible. It launched in so now it's in 9 different languages, over 3,000 were trained, and that means that over 700 programs within HMIS were given access to administer the tool itself. In 2026, it is about focusing on the evaluation and refinement of the tool now that more people are using it. We have a bigger pool of folks that will be administering it, so the data will tell us what adjustments need to be made. The key question now is not whether the tool is being used, but whether it's improving how we understand the need and make prioritization decisions that way. Ultimately, it's about ensuring that the tool is more accurate, equitable, and effective in housing outcomes for folks. And I'm going to pass it on to Haley.
And our next steps are to continue to evaluate the PSH prioritization. And again, with our shifting landscape, we're looking at real time and pivoting quickly and equitably, so we can serve the system and not, like Jonathan said, put up any barriers. Again, going to be a lot of updates on the utilization of the LA Hat and any other topics that y'all might see fit. And with that, we can open it up to questions, and we appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you for all this great information. Any questions? We covered it.
Oh, yes, of course. I was trying to be silent.
Yeah.
No, it's.
You like how I quickly was like, no questions, I see.
Not questions for the policy council.
Yeah.
So I don't like the decision, excuse me, by the policy council to prioritize time limited subsidies is huge. And I'm reached out at that point saying, why would this not come to LAHSA? And I was told it's because it's guidance. Like that has to come to commission. That is a table, like that's a huge, I just wonder if everyone at this table even understands that. Like the prioritization is for people currently housed. And so the reductions in unsheltered are going to be impacted by that decision. And that's a great decision or not great. Like it doesn't matter. Y'all made that decision, but it's hugely impactful. So I think just thinking about how impactful guidance comes to the commission, or at least it should go to ECRA, that should go everywhere. Any change to matching, because it's so hard when you listen to the policy council, these conversations are incredible, but then you hear about all kinds of things that aren't matched according to the policy. And so then you start to think, where's the influence? Like, it feels like we either need to like codify what y'all do and make it apply to everything, or it doesn't, like those wonderful conversations are for naught. So I don't know. I just feel like making sure we understand what y'all are talking about. And again, like at tables like ECRA, where you have all the small cities represented through their representatives, city, county, you know what I mean? It's critical.
Yeah, they're very important and critical updates. You're totally right. We've heard from this body before that you all are wanting to have a bigger role in the policies that get passed. And we are looking at what those options look like for addressing in the charter. Right now, it's just a matter of like the charter structure, the governance structure that's set up. And so we're looking at making adjustments to that to make the council more, or to make the commission more involved in big decisions. And I think we would welcome the opportunity to speak at some of those other tables that are outside of this governing structure. I know we've come to the homeless policy deputies. I know it has a new name. I don't remember what it's called.
Cluster or something. Yeah.
But we've come to homeless policy deputies. We frequently do presentations at H&H, not necessarily just about policy, but like the priorities for them. If there are ECRA tables, we would be happy to come and present and share kind of what we're seeing in the data, the direction we're heading, or if any decisions have been made for feedback and input. Yeah. Just let me know.
And for me too, it's also, I think it's a longer decision about how we influence, but it's quicker about how y'all just update.
Yeah. Sometimes, the landscape is changing so rapidly that we have to be able to act quickly times, but not all the time. And with all these layers of governance, being nimble can be really challenging. And so we were trying to find the balance between being able to respond quickly when situations arise, and when we notice like, hey, there's a really big problem, is it going to take us 6 months to fix it because we have to go through all these governance meetings? We don't want that, but we also know that it's important that everyone understand what's happening. So we would welcome the opportunity to present at more tables, and we are looking at ways to make this body more aware of and have more say in the decisions that get made.
Thanks, Kim. Because I know I've been on a couple of the LACDA calls lately, and they're updating their admin plan to like HCV isn't going to be matched through CES anymore for LACDA.
Yeah, that's a choice that they get to make, because housing choice vouchers are not required to be made available to homeless participants.
Right. But I think there was a universal understanding. There was this set aside. And so I only know about it because I was on policy. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I think either we all have to decide we want to invest in the policy council and the decisions made. I think we all know.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we've long asked for is, and I know I've talked to us about it, but I still want to say it here, is like, who's being matched? And I don't know if CES, I think Policy Council's been asking for that too. And I just don't know where that stands.
Yeah, we are very close to publishing a dashboard called, what we have internally called our Match to Move In dashboard. I'm sure we'll have a much more clear name for it once it's public.
Yeah.
But that shows who's actually getting in, not just, we have some resource dashboards that talk about the resources in PSH. Or this is looking at the who of PSH. What programs are they coming from?
Perfect.
What are their characteristics? How long have they been, like, how long did they wait to get in? How many matches did they get? So we're really trying to make those dashboards really useful and expand on those into other, not just, because it's not just who gets in, but it's also who's getting access to the system. Are we falling off at each step? And then ultimately, if our HMIS data on our PSH end, we can get it. There's a lot of improvements that we're having to make in that realm, but also who's falling out, like how long are people staying, right? It's the whole life cycle that we need to be paying attention to. The Policy Council, they have more influence over who gets in, but how we decide who, we want to understand the whole life cycle, right? Like it can be influenced by who's getting assessed. It can be influenced by who's not being successful. Like it's not ending up as a successful opportunity for them, even if they get in early. So we want to be able to really understand the breadth of that the whole dashboards for all of those will take a lot more time, but that Match to Move In when we are very close.
Well, and I think you didn't mention it can also be impacted by politics.
Yeah.
Where, like a person calls LAHSA and says, you're going to match it this way, which is not what the Policy Council said. So I think those are the kind of.
Yeah. And that's the reason for the standardization of case conferencing is that we want to be able to bring those requests to a not just LAHSA staff, but to a standard body that says, is this a reasonable request for us to make? Does this align with the exceptions that we've made in the past? What's our reasoning for that? So that's part of the reason for that standardized case conference.
Last request I would make, I think it'd be really interesting for the Policy Council to sort of list the places where the policies are being implemented. So like the programs, whether it be a particular PHA and how they, whatever, or TLS, or whether it's city funded, county funded, and then the places that it's not, that it's just like all backdoor matching.
Yeah, we've done some presentations that try to make that clear to policy council members, but it's not listed anywhere outside of the presentations for those meetings. So we can definitely take a look at what it would take. It is a complicated web. I mean, as you know, of funding and resources and the different places that.
But even if you started, Kim, you know,
we can start it and add detail as it becomes
like even
necessary.
individual buildings that we all know got like back.
Yeah.
Like let's put it out there.
Most buildings have more than one resource type, and LAHSA doesn't match every single unit in those buildings.
Yeah.
Right. We match the CES units, but not the affordable housing units or not the VASH units. So the all the CES policies don't apply to that set of units.
Right. And again, even the ones where they do apply, they don't get honored.
Yeah.
I think that's important also.
Sometimes. We try our best.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keisha, item 10 point. Okay, you're already up.
Keisha.
Okay.
Good morning. It is still morning. Good morning, Commissioners. Keisha Douglas, Deputy Chief Talent Officer.
Good afternoon now.
Nice to see you all and happy Friday.
Yes.
Going to give you a brief update. Like to bring you the numbers monthly so we know how we're doing. We're currently at 639 FTEs. 88 of those are union represented. We've had 9 terminations since the last commission meeting, all voluntary. I think, you know, the total terms that we've had since the beginning of the fiscal year is 124. Wow. 85% of that have been voluntary. But what I think is important to note is that we've had more turnover thus far than we've had in the entire 25-26 fiscal year. It's up about 1.5, almost 2%.
Wow.
And we still have a little over 3 months left in this fiscal year.
Yep.
So the attrition is real, the churn is real. Folks are really concerned. They're hopeful that jobs are going to be created for everyone, but a lot of folks just can't wait. We have folks exiting on a regular, consistent basis. Just a little bit about the second job fair. The County of HR was supposed to hold a second job fair here at LAHSA next Friday. It has been canceled. They came and did a walkthrough this week, but I think they decided with only 22 people left in that original bunch of 95, it didn't make sense to set up a job fair here. They're going to do those virtually. Okay. So all of those folks will get an opportunity to interview. And so that's going to happen sometime next week, but it will be in person or at LAHSA.
Okay.
I think let's see, what else do I want to let you know? Oh, they've also shared that, and I think Cherie also shared that as well. They are working on other avenues so that county funded employees will have options to transfer into other county employment. DHR is working on that. We have our monthly HR to HR meeting with county HR, and so they will share that with us as we continue to move forward towards the end of the fiscal year. On March 10th, we held a joint meeting with County DHR and ADP Total Source. That's we're under the PEO platform for medical care, provide all of our benefits, including workers' comp, COBRA, et cetera. So the county is going to pay 1 month of COBRA expenses for all of our staff that are transferring over this initial outreach group. In order to do that, ADP is requesting individual checks. So to cut 95 individual checks. So they brought in the county auditor controller in this meeting that was held. They want to make sure it's legally compliant how they do that. They were hoping that ADP would allow 1 check to come from the county. And of course, we are ADP's client. So, you know, they're not really willing to bend the rules to make this happen, but we are working diligently so that there is a process that's legally compliant. And as those folks get ready to transfer, the county will pay that 1 month. So there's no lapse in benefits for folks who are mid-treatment.
Awesome.
I think we originally, I think we're told we're trying to target March 1st or March 16th, but you know, because they want to work out this COBRA issue and they want to ensure that the remaining 22 folks get into the interview process, I think we're looking more towards next month sometime for a start date for these folks, but it will be before June 30. So they will actually terminate with LAHSA and then become employees of the county. On March 12th, we also had an initial meet and confer with the union to begin discussions about our budget cuts and LAHSA's impending restructure. So we have started that discussions with them. We are prepared and in good faith with them regarding the process for downsizing as required by the MOU. So I did kind of want to just give you all some preliminary dates that we did share with the union, that as the overall structure is not completed yet, our budget is not finalized 100%, but the dates that we are targeting, you all to be aware of what's in our MOU and what we are required to follow. Also, if our downsizing is 50 employees plus, we would be required to follow the Warren Act, which would be additional reporting requirements.
Okay.
So our 10-day advance notice to the union would be April 20th. That is the date that we would send the preliminary list of employees that are affected within the downsizing. We are required to give the union 10-day advance notice prior to the employees. So we're targeting that date for April 20th. And then the staff that are affected would get notification April 30th with an effective date, a full 60 days of June 30th, the end of our fiscal year. So we are working with the union. We have to speak with the union regarding the methodology. As we're all aware, the union does require, they mandate a reverse seniority basis for union classifications on how folks get to that list. But we have started those initial meetings with them. Once we get the list, the union really wants to see all the ingredients, who's affected, what classifications are affected. So once we have that definitively, at least at now with what our budget is completed, we will go back to the union and share them so that they understand and they agree to the methodology on how the folks hit the list of who will be have employment income June 30th. I want to say that very nicely. So those are kind of what we are shooting for now. Gita and I are planning to meet with City Labor Council next week just to kind of walk through them and talk to them because we also need to collaborate with them. Our primary goal is mitigation efforts. So where can we preserve jobs? Where can we laterally transfer folks? Kind of the same way we did in our restructure back a year or so ago. And so that will be our primary concern, our objective, and we're speaking with council just to ensure how we're doing and what we're doing is correct to mitigate any type of liability on the back end. Lastly, there are 170 LAHSA employees currently working with the concierge program. That's a little bit up from last time. I think we were one or so last month, but they're right now at 170. And so our employees are still within the system. I spoke to county, they said many of them have had multiple meetings with the concierge program. So we do believe that there are employees that are probably in the process of trying to assimilate into employment within the 30 departments within the county. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Did y'all get an initial, I remember y'all were gonna have like a meeting with the city on your budget that you said was earlier than it normally would be. Has that happened yet or that's still pending?
Few meetings with the city. So we're, hopeful, but we do not have any commitments as the budget process.
So you'll have to give notifications on April 30th for people who will very likely retain their job. You just won't have confirmations from the city potentially.
Sorry, interim CEO. Yes, we will not have confirmation until the actual budget comes out later till.
Just say, but the budget is required by law to come out by April 20th. So
they have to send the notices to the union April 20th. So,
but they will know ahead of that time, I believe, before the blue book comes out. The mayor's required to present her budget on April 20th.
They're saying no.
We're hopeful. We know there's many city council motions that are also being heard at H&H about LAHSA and its future.
Yeah.
So
I just think you will know what's included in the mayor's budget by April 20th. The city council won't approve it for a couple of months.
Yes.
Or a month, whatever the time period is. So, but
I just think we have to call out that there are going to be people impacted and terrified who actually will still have a job. Because you're going to have to, if you don't know exactly what's going to be approved and you are held accountable to the Warren Act, then you're going to have to give people notices that you're not sure.
There's a possibility that we will give initial notification letters that will be rescinded.
Yes.
That's been through restructure. It's happened through our first 2 rounds of layoffs. We were able to rescind notices. We have had very minimal layoffs, thank goodness. And so if that does happen with this batch that we're sending out, we would be overjoyed to issue rescind letters to the staff who received
This is the letter that
layoff
you
notices.
sent previously that you had to, you required whatever, several months ago, that I can't remember when people were concerned about it and
Yes.
but it was what you were required by law to do.
It
'Cause
is
that
what
was-
we're
That
required
was on
with-
the county side, so there's.
No, that was not on the county side.
It's what's required in our MOU. And so
I understand that, but it
We
is.
removed no funding at that point for staff. It was city. It was not
different.
county funded staff, right, saying.
Okay, sorry, my bad. So, but I just think whatever it is, it's required by law. You're gonna,
Yes.
do that in, but it's
We're
rescinded.
what we're trying to do is take precautionary methods so that come June 30th, we do not have the funding to keep retain our entire 639 employees. We've appropriately noticed people rather than, something else happen. And then if we rescind them, wonderful. But folks are on notice. This is something I think our workforce is quite aware of. Everyone is waiting, anticipating the budget to be finalized and to see what LASA's final structure is going to look like. And so I think folks they're aware. But pending final notification, final numbers, that's when our list will be finalized. But we are taking the preparatory action to, as the restructure is now, give folks notice.
And we're in a different state than our previous notices that we were able to claw back. This is a significant change. I keep wanting to emphasize that to losses funding. We will not end up in the same position. Doubtfully. Many of our providers are also extremely worried about their funding. I know the county is sending a letter to them. I would hope the city would do something similar to the providers are also assured that they know what the funding will be. They frequently ask us. We, turn to the city for assistance with that. So the provider cohort can know that they're going to be in business next year as well.
And we continue jobs that we receive out to our entire workforce. Commissioner Graves, thank you very much. She's very active about sending positions within her business network. The city and the county are sending them to us. We forward them to our staff. Many right now aren't really applicable to the types of positions that are at LASA, but we anticipate, and we heard Cherie talking, I think their next focus is going to be on IT related roles. So that would be applicable to LASA staff, and then they will move into administrative type roles. And we believe many of those also would be applicable to LASA staff. I think the 4 departments that are really working with LASA right now, per the county, with the job fair were DHS, DMH, HSH, and then probation. So
Do we have a number? Because this is where I'm confused a bit of it. So here's our, losses budget Measure A changes and city changes or whatever. This was what we had, and these are the positions. Similarly, this is what on July 1st, again, what we know today, and we'll know more from the city in April. These are the position, what it's going to look like. Because we kind of know, at least I think, that the county is taking the contracts and whatever else, that those positions won't exist in LASA anymore. So, and maybe it's, we've seen it and I'm just not aware, but I think it would be great to say, we currently have 600 and so odd positions. We anticipate these positions on the July 1st from the changeover these positions will no longer exist in LASA. And that's on the county side. And here's the city side, knowing what we will or will not have. I don't know if I've seen that.
You haven't seen it yet because we have to meet with the union first, and then we will put that out. But again, we are refocusing LASA. So it's not just we're pure left after the loss from the county. We really are trying to make sure that LASA is an important part of the region. So there will be shifts in what LASA is doing.
But it's all dependent upon money. So
yes,
that we kind of know here's the money we're going to have or not have. Again, lots of flexibility or uncertainty is probably it on some of these areas, but those that we know we're not going to have, I think it's, that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions? We will definitely bring all of that to you once we get it. My goal is to be as communicative with you all as possible, as early as possible, as regular as possible. So
right, but that 30 days, I mean, again, we're started with, we know the city's budget is X, but a lot of these others are also, that 30-day period is kind of coming up. So
yes, we are aware. Hence the meeting with our labor attorneys early next week, so we can get lists together and then be prepared so that we can notice them and then you all as well. And include I want to make sure I'm stating on record, including the union in the pre-planning, any kind of notifications are going out. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for managing
Thank you.
all that and updating us. Do we have any public comment on this?
No, Commissioner.
Okay. So we skip down to item 12, report on committee meetings. So we have Programs and Contracts Committee meeting was held on Wednesday, March 18th. Commissioner Graves was not at that meeting. I served as alternate. Commissioner Saunders is not here, so I will give a brief update of that meeting. We had updates on KPIs as well as TLS subsidy ramp down progress. And then the HUD NOFO update was moved to this meeting, which we just heard from Jessica. So that is what happened at Program and Contracts. Do we have anyone here on the audit committee? Oh, actually, Commissioner Stringer, were you at the audit committee meeting on March 18th? That's not to put you on the spot, but
I was.
you were.
Yes, it was a very short meeting and I don't think there are any meaningful updates.
Wonderful. I'll take
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. Report on the finance committee held right before this meeting. Commissioner McMorrin.
Thank you, Chair. We did meet earlier this morning. Grateful to staff for all of their dedication. Sorry to be close to the mic, and incredible detail in the appendices that they provided as it pertains to our mid-year budget versus actuals, updates on our service providers and our overall financial position. So we asked for some report backs, and I'm sure they will be ready for our April session. Grateful to my colleagues. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you. Do we have any updates or agenda requests for future meetings? Okay. Do we have any general public comment?
No, Commissioner.
Okay. So actually, before we adjourn, I'd also like to thank Denise. It's Denise's last day. She's been helping us for the last 10 months, and we wish her all the best. And thanks for keeping us organized. Thank you. Yeah. I don't think folks realize how much work it takes to work the meetings. So I really just appreciate all the flexibility and agility. Our next anticipated meeting is going to be March 31st at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. We don't know. 11 a.m. So again, anticipated meeting. Watch out for posting on that. And at this time, I adjourn us. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time today. Good job, team.